All right, in this video, we're going to be finishing up talking about critical paths. We weren't able to get to it because the earliest start time just took too long. All right, let's get started. Now, this one here we just went to. All right, so what I did was I went ahead and just erased everything. I'm going to keep my ESTs here just for reference, but I'm going to go ahead and erase all this. Now, the critical path. All right, you got to look at it from like a perspective of like it's a map or a route. Okay, so what might help you out is that looking at it from a perspective of it being a route, meaning what route did you take from start to finish? All right, so here we are at start. All right, so this should be a review here. Start, the EST from A and B should be 0. Okay, so remember that our critical path, and let me kind of type this again, but let me type it a little better. A critical path is the route based on the EST. Okay. Now, once again, it's one of those situations where let me show you how to do it, and then hopefully you'll be able to catch on. All right. Now, also a highlighter is going to help you out. All right. So being able to use a highlighter and doing this is going to help you out. So what we have here is we're starting with start, obviously. Now, both ESTs are at 0. So what I'm doing is I'm making 2 highlighted sections of this. So these are my 2 potential paths. Okay, now going from A to C. Now you know as well as I do the EST of C is 2. All right, the EST of E will be 4. Now notice I skipped D here for a second. All right, so let me go ahead and highlight again. So what I'm doing, I'm just highlighting my path. All right, now this is where it's going to get a little interesting, and that is D. D has 2 arrows coming to it. Okay, now remember that D had an EST of 5. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting with critical path, and that was this 5 came from C. Okay, so what that means is we are going to highlight the path from C to D. So basically, let me write this down as well. You're always taking the longest path. All right, so you're always taking the longest path based off your EST. So let's keep going. E to F, that would be 6. There's 6. That was not what I wanted to do. Let me try this again. So E to F, you're taking 6. All right, so highlighting it again. This is a potential path here, but notice what we have is G. All right, so D to G would be a total of 8. F to G will be a total of 7. So 8 is greater than 7, and you know well as I do, take your longest one. That's 8. So based off of you're always taking the path of the longest EST, this is the path of longest EST, which then from here, you're finished. All right. So what happened was this path here, look at it from, it got terminated because it was obviously not the longest path. All right. So your final answer is what was the critical path? Is that you started with start, and then you went to A, C, D, G, and then you went to finish. In fact, let me put some commas in there. Let me make it right. There you go. So this is my critical path. Start to A, C, D, G, and then finish. All right. Now that was the first time you've seen it, so it might be a little confusing. Let's go to the second one that we used, which is this guy right here. All right. So let me clean this up. So we're going to do the ESTs a little faster this time. B is 7, C is 7. So highlight both 7s. These are all my potential paths. Oops, start. These are all my potential paths. All right. D would be 10. So I'm going to highlight this path. Remember, they're all potential until you get to the finish. All right. Now, here we go. E. E has an EST of 11. So, but we use the path from 7 and 4. So we use the path from C. So I'm going to highlight C to E. Now, from F here, F, if you remember, had an EST of 16. Now, that 16 came from E. So at that point, we're going to highlight all the way up here. So this path had been terminated because this is not the longest path. All right, continuing on to G, that would be 23, and then finish would be 26. So my critical path from F to G, from G to finish, and we're done. So that's my path. So I would say start. So start. Let's see, A, C, E, F, G, and then finish. There's my path. All right, last one we're going to do, and that is this one right here. A little more busy, but we can handle it. All right. So starting some ESTs. So A is going to be 0, B is going to be 1, C is going to be 2, and E is going to be 2. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight. And I just did the first couple, just so I don't have to keep switching back between my pen and highlighter. C. Right. Now let's do D. We can do that. D would have an EST of 5. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. All right. Now let's talk. Well, actually, we can go ahead and do G. G would have an EST of 3. Actually, no, scratch that. It will not be. I'm sorry. G actually has 2 arrows coming to it. All right, so we have to investigate both ways. So D to G, let's see, that was 7. Sorry, I almost made a rookie mistake there. So there's my longer path, so I'm always highlighting the longer path. All right, F would be 7 as well, and that came from D here, so I'm going to highlight these two. Remember, I'm just highlighting my longest paths here. All right, now we have H. H has an EST of 12, and that came from G. And I'm going to go ahead and do the finish, which is 15. So when I highlight my critical path from G to H to finish. So my critical path is start, A, B, let me see, I believe that was C, D, G, H, and lastly finish. All right, there's critical paths. Hope you learned something. Thank you for watching.